outraged, I'm sickened, and I'm saddened by the way Shadur continues to be treated in the National Football League, now by those sorry-ass Browns and sorry-ass Kevin Stefanski.
I understand in a situation like that, when it comes to the 3s and 4s that you're playing with that aren't going to be on the squad and not going to make the team, give your quarterback a chance. Okay, you know what? You know they can't hold up that long? Let's play quick game. Let's play quick game just to get Shadur in the goddamn rhythm. But no, you come out, call them regular offensive plays.
When they're at practice, Shedeur Sanders is not their priority. When he is at practice, he was staying hours beforehand, leaving hours later.
Last night, Shedeur Sanders was thrown into the game last night with the intention of failing. It wasn't an accident. Everything suggested that this was a well-thought-out approach. It was obvious that he was against the entire system as soon as he took the field. The coaching staff and the Browns believed they could silence his hysteria and end his ascent. However, they were unaware that this same endeavor would backfire. Journalists and commentators are now assembling to lambaste Stefanski and the Browns management for their part in preparing Shadur for preseason failure.
This question by saying Shedeur Sanders, and I'm going to tell you why. I think he's being set up to fail.
Stephen A. Smith, who had anticipated this entire preseason arrangement from the start, was first up. Everything would be set up to make Shedeur Sanders fail, he predicted, from the very first game to the very last. He even went so far as to claim that Shedur's failure was predetermined by his decision to start the first preseason game. Smith was certain that the intention was to cause Shadur to falter, confirming the theory that he was only a fifth-round quarterback and demonstrating that those who had doubts about him were correct all along. Some may argue that everything was prearranged from the beginning, and that may have been the case before the preseason, but let me assure you that it wasn't. Because they wanted to see Shadur fail, they put him in a system he had never played in and are now holding Stefanski accountable for what he did to him. Garrett Bush raised his voice and emphasized that Shadur was never really a priority in their plans, regardless of how hard he worked before and after the session.
Practice. Shedeur Sanders is not their priority. When he is at practice, he was staying hours beforehand, leaving hours later.
But Stefanski remained steadfast in his belief that his guys were playing well and that Shadur was the only one to blame for his difficulties. Stefanski refused to back down when asked if Shedur's mistakes were caused by the fact that he had been rehearsing with the third and fourth team players all week. Instead, Stefanski rejected the idea that Shadur may have been more ready if he had practiced with the first team players. He only asserted that his objective as a coach was to help rookies grow. However, is this truly how a coach ought to treat a bright prospect? Denying him any opportunities to practice with the first team, rather than putting him in a position where he must perform a play for which he has never had time to prepare?
The players, Mary Kay, there's things that we can do better, and there's some good moments out there, but that's what our job as coaches, to develop.
In his remarks, Skip Bayless also criticized the Browns for their treatment of Shedeur Sanders, describing it as the worst conceivable strategy. He pointed out that Shedur's constant mistreatment by Stefanski and the Browns appeared to be a worrying pattern. Skip claims that this was not an isolated incident. Shadur was obviously not receiving the opportunities or assistance he required. The Browns' treatment of him has simply increased the strain, making his success much more challenging.
I'm sickened and I'm saddened by the way Shadur continues to be treated in the National Football League, now by those sorry-ass Browns and sorry-ass Kevin Stefanski.
Cinco said that Stefanski had essentially set Shadur up for failure by starting him with offensive players who weren't even going to make the roster. Presented a compelling argument, stating that the same thing would have happened even if someone like Tom Brady had been in such circumstances. With such players all around him, Shadur would inevitably have trouble. Analysts concur, assigning the coaching staff direct responsibility for not giving him a fair chance to succeed. Inko also foresaw that Shedeur Sanders would soon be dismissed as a fifth-string quarterback and branded as a failure by his detractors. However, made the point that nobody would deal with the true problem of who was in charge of setting Shadur up in the first place. Made it apparent that this is all part of the attempt to bring him down in spite of the growing criticism. Whatever occurs, it's clear that certain individuals are more interested in discrediting him than in recognizing the real causes of his achievement.
You just beat the guy. And that's okay. You get paid, he gets paid. Sometimes Ocho just gonna win because Ocho was just the better player. Sometimes the defensive back is gonna win. He wins some, you win more than you lose.
Shedeur Sanders never voiced any dissatisfaction toward his coach or anybody else in spite of everything that transpired. He focused on what he could control and accepted full responsibility for his performance instead. Shadur acknowledged that he needed to get better in a lot of areas and reaffirmed his resolve to work hard to improve. He refused to let the defeat define him and instead concentrated on developing himself and learning from the experience. Shedeur Sanders, like a seasoned player, took full responsibility for his errors, acknowledging that he could have made better decisions to keep the offense going and kept his eyes in better spots during those runs. He accepted responsibility for every sack, admitting that he was solely to blame. His mature and self-aware response showed that he understood the game and was willing to take what he had learned from it.
No, I gotta watch the film, honestly. I can't say what it was. It's definitely different places where I could got my eyes in better spots and got to the progressions quicker and regards to anything, so all those sacks, they definitely on me.
However, how much longer can Shadur keep blaming himself? How much longer must he wait for these prejudiced parties to defend him, or at the very least give him a chance? It's becoming clear that a lot of NFL players believe this to be a planned setup. Shadur is still entangled in the web even though he survived the first round. It is yet unclear when the system will begin to give to him and cease treating him unfairly. Ultimately, the way that Deion Sanders has been treated calls into question the NFL's fairness, opportunity, and bias. Shadur has shown incredible maturity and attention in handling the problem, even in the face of the huge obstacles in his path. He accepted full responsibility for his performance, recognizing his areas for growth and staying committed to learning from it. But the system that is holding him back is the greater problem, not his performance on an individual basis. Shedur's difficulties point to a concerning trend of disparaging young athletes, especially those who don't conform to a particular stereotype or storyline. Deeper systemic problems in the sport are indicated by the way the Browns have mistreated him and put him in circumstances where failure appeared certain. His narrative goes beyond the path of a single quarterback. It's about the innumerable athletes who encounter similar challenges, frequently brought on by uncontrollable circumstances. It's obvious that the discussion surrounding Shedeur Sanders goes beyond football as experts and pundits keep pointing out the unfair treatment. It's about dismantling prejudice and providing each player with the equal opportunity they merit. Although Shedur's perseverance is commendable, the true question still remains is when the system will shift and when sportsmen like him will have the opportunity to succeed. Your opinions on this matter would be greatly appreciated. Do you believe that Shedeur Sanders is receiving fair treatment, or is there a more serious problem at hand? For what length of time should athletes like him be held accountable for events that are beyond of their control? Please share your opinions in the space provided for comments below. We are interested in your opinion. Let's start the discourse.